Blessings, beloveds. Welcome back. So this is take 3, Mercury retrograde. Loves to play his little tricks, the old Hermes. Very interesting things going on with Mercury, which I'll get into in a moment. No water fountain, no water sounds, no background noise. So many of you will be pleased about that. So let's talk about this new moon. The first thing that I want to read from Sabian symbols is the Sabian symbol for the new moon, because it is beautiful, inspiring, and perhaps many of you will resonate with the meaning to this Sabian symbol, which is, it's actually quite, it's very, very clear. It's not, I mean, a lot of the Sabian symbols are very symbolic, hence Sabian symbols, right? But this particular Sabian symbol just seems very, very clear to understand. And I personally relate to it very strongly with my own personal circumstances. So in any case, here it is. So we look at the 3rd degree of Libra, because the new moon is at 2 degrees of Libra, right? So let's go to the next degree relative to Sabian symbols. So the heading for it is the dawn of a new day reveals everything changed. I love that. The dawn of a new day reveals everything changed. Just even that, that statement is something that we actually experience really every day that we wake up, right? We just don't really think about it, right? But you know, every night we go to sleep and we surrender, because that's what we do when we go to sleep. We literally surrender to the divine source creation, to all things. And we wake up with our breath, with our eyes, with a new day, new energy, new life, right? That happens every single night and day, right? We don't think about it, but that's the gift that we are given every single day when we wake up, right? And so the dawn of a new day reveals everything changed is such a, it's very Scorpio, Aries type of energy when I read that. But further, you will see the keynote has some things about values, which is the Libran component to this particular Sabian symbol. But it's interesting to note as well that the new moon, which takes place in a couple of days' time, is the new lunation cycle we are stepping into. And a new moon is always characterized by the vibration of Aries, right? Because it's a new moon, a new beginning, a new cycle. Everything new that is born in any moment is an Aries frequency, right? It holds the emergence of life force, right? Revealing itself, expressing itself, being born. So it's a new birth, right? It's Aries, but it is in Libra, so we have to bring that into our perspective, let's say, or how we integrate into this energy, right? This particular cycle. The keynote is the ever-present possibility of beginning again on a new foundation of values. And I love that as well, because it's a reminder that our values do change as well. You know, as we grow, develop, evolve, learn, experience life, right? We discard some values throughout the course of our journey. We take on new values. We're always changing, right? And so this symbol is just very, very powerful for each of us to witness and stand in a position of a new pathway for each of us, right? And that's, of course, going to be reflected with the rest of your chart and everything else that's going on in there, okay? Just a few more comments about this Sabian symbol. So he says, this symbol hardly needs to be interpreted. And he's right, because it's really straightforward, right? Except for pointing out that these first 3 symbols, beginning the 2nd hemicycle of the cyclic process, should be seen as a basic trinity. Let's see. It can be related, so my book's falling apart, can be related to the process of true initiation. And then he's got 3 points that connect to this process of true initiation. The first point is the experience of the undying form of perfection. 2, the release of the energy incorporated in the form in order to teach that which is beyond form and name. I love that. 3, the re-embodiment of energy in a new creative act. I love that as well. So you can just, reflect on that and process those points yourself and see how that speaks to you relative to this new moon. And by the way, where is this new moon in your birth chart? That's where this cycle begins, right? In that area of your chart, that house, that area of life, those dimensions of life. And you can use whole sign houses, and you can use your quadrant chart. You can look at both charts, play around with that, because you sometimes will get different results, and you'll find that in both cases there's something very significant, whether it's, in the 9th house or the 10th house or the 4th house or the 3rd house, if you're using both whole sign houses and quadrant houses, for instance. But main takeaway from this Sabian symbol is that it's a totally new beginning with a new foundation of values that's being instilled in our psyche, as it were, right? So it's very uplifting, very positive, very encouraging. And I suppose relative to upliftment and encouragement and so forth, let me just share my screen and pop myself over there. Maybe make myself a little bit more seeable. And let's bring up solar fire. So here's the chart for the new moon. This is based in Melbourne, Australia. So don't worry about where everything is placed in this chart. This is just for this location that I'm in at the moment. If you want to have a look at the location of the new moon in your place, wherever you are, then you'll draw it up for your place. However, it's more valuable, I think, to just plot it into your birth chart, right, wherever it is, because that's starting the new cycle in that area of your life, okay? So again, never mind where everything is located here. All right, so the most obvious features here are Jupiter is opposite this new moon, right? And that's a pretty important feature, okay? So there's Jupiter at 3 degrees of Aries, forming an opposition to this new moon. So that means this lunation cycle in the sign of Libra, which is ruled by Venus, is being opposed by Jupiter, okay? So Jupiter is retrograde here, and Venus is a ruler to this new moon. Now she's in fall there, so that's an interesting point. But the overall energy of this new moon is the sense of me, you, or me and we, right? That's the underlying theme, right, of this particular cycle. So again, like I said, though, a new moon is always an Aries energy, but here it is in the sign of Libra. So this is why, for example, when the sun is found in Libra, it's said to be in its detriment, right? We don't often think about that at all. I guess because so many people have the sun in Libra, right? So it's just not something that we think about. But, the sun in Libra is basically in its detriment, because the sun is, in its fall rather, is exalted in the sign of Aries. So the sun shines very naturally in the sign of Aries. It can be itself, as it were. The sun is a masculine principle, right? It's a force that gives us a sense of our own identity, right? Who am I? What am I? Right? That awareness and understanding of having that sense of self and sense of identity. And Libra takes us into the sphere and domain and field of the other, or unity, or togetherness, or connection, right? It's not a natural position for the sun to be in, right? So it is an interesting thing to consider with this new moon, right? It is in the sign of Libra. And so the most obvious areas are the areas of relationships, right? That get really highlighted during this time. If you're not in a relationship, then it's clearly going to have to do with your own value system and just simply the things that you want to perhaps inject more balance into your own life, right? Libra is all about balance, or the striving of a sense of balance, because we can never perfect anything, no matter no matter how extraordinary we think we might be at XYZ. No one is perfect, right? So we're always striving in some kind of way to integrate further, right? And so with Libra, we are striving to bring a sense of, a greater sense of balance in the way we live our life. And with Libra, of course, it's how we relate to other people, how we share with others, how we actually understand other people's values, how we understand our own, and how those two worlds may be unified, as it were, or are they in conflict and opposition, which is Aries. And so we have Jupiter in Aries opposite this new moon, and Jupiter here is basically speaking to, well, first of all, an opposition is typically experienced as a sense of polarization, right? So initially, the sense of polarization emerges because we take position of one point of the spectrum, right, of the opposition, in this case, let's say the new moon, and the Jupiter, therefore, can very easily be projected, right? So there can be a sense of tension or conflict, but there is tremendous possibility for resolution with oppositions, because oppositions essentially lead us to a further sense of illumination. In other words, seeing more clearly, right? Being perhaps more objective, being able to see the bigger picture. The opposition is the same frequency as a full moon. What does a full moon do? It illuminates everything. Whatever is there is seen, right, for better or for worse, as it were. So this Jupiter opposite this new moon in Libra can bring in some tensions around what the Jupiter in Aries wants to achieve, and then what the new moon wants to achieve. And we have to find the balance between the two, because if we stay on one side or on the other side, we're not integrating, right? We are just maintaining one position and projecting the other, and therefore experiencing it as a sense of tension with situations in our life, with the person in our life, with people in our life. So it is always about integrating in order to find a sense of harmony and balance between the energies within our own self, right? So the Libran component can be, at best it can be the diplomat, the one who seeks for true balance, harmony, justice, equality, is objective and all those sorts of things. And the Aries is also in Jupiter in Aries is seeking to basically run wild, run free, do its own thing, right? It's Aries. It's very courageous there, Jupiter in Aries. There's a powerful impulse and drive to want to do one's own thing, as it were. And so there's this sense of tension in this lunation cycle, if we don't integrate the energies of, if I just do the Libran thing from the point of view of pleasing others in order to not rock the boat, or in order to be liked and appreciated, Venus, I'm doing it at the cost of what Jupiter in Aries is calling me to step up into as well. So it's a very fine line between understanding our own sort of impulses and drives and things that we wish to step into, and also having a sense of awareness of others in our life that we are dealing with, that we are intimate with, that we are connecting with, that we are sharing with, whatever it is. So it's a very delicate position, because Jupiter is the planet of expansion, right? Jupiter has no boundaries, no limits. It just wants to go for it. And the Libran energy in this new moon is saying, well, hang on a minute. Let me just weigh this up. Let me look at all possibilities, as it were, and let me just weigh it up and find a middle ground, as it were. That's kind of what we have to do. So it's not about swinging to one or the other, but finding that middle ground that enables us to acknowledge where we are in our growth and development and what we are ready for, and also enables us to understand and hear and acknowledge the other on the opposite side of us, which is Aries Libra, right? So that's kind of, in a nutshell, the theme that's going on here. And because it's Jupiter, it will have to do as well with our own philosophical beliefs on a particular matter. We could be weighing something up and saying, just to use a basic example, I can't submit to this particular thing because it goes against my core principle values, something like that. Well, in this case, we're going to have to, look at the whole picture, right? The whole picture. And this will become a lot clearer in 2 weeks' time when we have the full moon in Aries, right? So it's a very delicate energy. I mean, Jupiter is a benefic anyway, so it inherently doesn't bring any harm, but it can throw us out of balance a bit if we're not careful with the sense of Jupiter's impulses in Aries and how fast it wants to go. So we just kind of have to, find that middle ground and work with both. New moon in Libra, Jupiter in Aries. How do I meet the other or the others halfway in this situation where there is a sense of balance and equality, right? This could speak to much bigger and deeper things in your life as well, but ultimately it is, think about that Sabian symbol, it's literally the portal of a brand new beginning, right? About certain, it's about the overall sense of values that we hold and have, but it could just be one particular theme of principles and values that you've held, and something has changed within that, right? Something has changed in you, right? There's something quite deep that's going on here. Also, just a couple of days before the new moon, when Mercury was conjunct the Sun in a Cazimi conjunction at 0 degrees of Libra, that's a very, very powerful Cazimi, because Mercury is in its retrograde position, right? Let me just show you what that looks like. So, because it's actually, it was yesterday for me, and so 26, that's Monday, isn't it, for the new moon? We'll get back to that in a minute because there's a few more things I want to say. But okay, we kind of need to fiddle around with this because slower, faster moving planets move very quickly. So there it is there, okay. I'd need to fiddle further with it to get it exact, but there's the Cazimi conjunction, okay, with the Sun and Mercury. And Mercury is retrograde. The conjunction occurs on the equinox. It's the spring equinox in the southern hemisphere and the autumn equinox in the northern hemisphere. So it's equal day, equal night. There's, every time the sun reaches this point in the zodiac, it's literally reached its halfway point, hasn't it, right? Because the beginning is Aries, 21st of March. That's why it's the new year. It's true new year, the astrological new year. And then as the sun travels around and we get to, virtually the end of September, the sun has come to its exact opposite point of where it started. All right. And so we get this equal day, equal night. And this is where the true sense of balance and harmony is expressed or radiated or integrated into the ether, into the collective unconscious, into our own consciousness, our own life, as it were. So there's always this strong sense of balance that needs to come in, is coming in, and will come in. And even just with the little lady from the UK that passed on recently, there's a tremendous sense of balance, powers and balance. There's some interesting things going on there, right? Spiritually. The transcendence of that particular soul is a powerful hallmark for what we are moving towards, right, on a collective level. So anyway, back to this Mercury Sun conjunction. So it's a Cazimi, meaning Mercury is obscured by the Sun's light. It's in the heart of the Sun. That's what the term Cazimi means. We often only think about that, well, not only, but generally we'll think about that a lot more when we have the Sun-Venus conjunction. We call that Venus being in the heart of the Sun. Well, in this case, Mercury is in the heart of the Sun. So Mercury retrograde, Cazimi, during Equinox, and then it's quite peculiar that it's retrograde here. It's not necessarily a common phenomena. So I think Mercury, because Mercury was the god that had the ability to transfer himself into all the layers, all the worlds, all the spheres. That's why he's known as the messenger, because he would take messages from God over here and take it to God over there and take it to humanity down here and so on and so forth, right? So Mercury is that part of our mind, our consciousness, that is receiving data, information, knowledge, and is sorting it out, putting it into what connects with what, and what does this mean, and what does that mean, and so on and so forth. But the journey here is interesting because Mercury was at 0 Libra already in August, and it's there again now, and it will get back there again in October, around the first or second week of October. So that 0 degrees Libra, Mercury passes over 3 times, which is really, really profound. And furthermore, 0 degrees of Libra is a critical degree. 0 of cardinals is critical, right? So there's something critical that's shifting the balance in the ether beyond the scope of our own understanding relative to our logical mind. But let's just go back to the new moon. Oh, just with Mercury as well. As we proceed forward, Mercury is going to catch up to the opposition to Neptune as well. That's a very tricky aspect, lots of mental confusion is the thing that comes to mind, with the Mercury opposite Neptune. Deception, lies, deceit, whether it's deliberate or unintentional, misinterpreted information, messages, not understood correctly, and so forth. So we kind of need to be careful about that. But of course, from the level of spirit and divinity and source, it's really about, surrendering our own mental judgments, as it were, our own mental fields of ideas of, thinking this is right, this is wrong, that's good, that's bad, so on and so forth, right? Which we do in the human form because of the human form, because of this physicality, because of the concept of morals and values and ethics and judgments and so on and so forth, right? But Mercury opposite Neptune, aside from the tricky facets of it, which it can be very tricky, so never underestimate its power. I wouldn't sign documents under a Mercury-Neptune transit, for instance. That's me, right? You can do as you wish, but I wouldn't. But, outside of the trickiness of Hermes, Mercury, there is tremendous opportunity for the surrender of our own mental attachments and mental jargon that goes on, right? So there's that, that's an opportunity. Going back to this new moon, the other thing that I notice as well which is, it's a little bit wide, but it may or may not impact. I'm not entirely sure. It just depends sometimes. It is a square though, so squares are very strong aspects. So what I'm thinking is Pallas Athena up here in Cancer is squaring the new moon, and therefore, of course, squaring Jupiter. So it's a T square, right? And it's interesting because Jupiter is the father of Pallas Athena. Now, both Pallas and Jupiter correspond to intuition and wisdom, our higher mind, employing our higher mind and consciousness and getting out of the small mind, if you like. That's, we consider as our logical, rational mind, which is important, has its place, but when we get too stuck in that, we can become so boxed in or anchored in or hooked in to, mental repetitive patterns and themes that really become counterproductive because they just keep us locked into a fixed opinion or perspective, for instance, right? And in truth, nothing is really fixed, as it were, because everything is energy, everything is movement, so everything's always moving and changing, right? Being born or reborn, decaying, passing, coming back, and so on and so forth. So I think with Pallas Athena there, because she's in the sign of Cancer, and because she corresponds to she's like the feminine counterpart of Jupiter, right? She's the goddess of wisdom, right? But she connects to matters of, politics and the arts and crafts and many different things, actually. But she's essentially a warrior goddess and one that uses her wisdom to take on battles that need matters of justice to be present, right? And fairness and equality and things like that. So in Cancer, it's an unusual kind of energy for Pallas Athena. It's a water sign. Cancer's quite subjective. It's particularly concerned about family, security, things like that. So in any case, she's squaring this new moon. So her presence there, I mean, on a level where we could say we can pull in her energy in a way that's going to be helpful to us, is to trust our intuition through our ability to be empathetic and through the feeling body, the feeling realm, the feeling experiences, which can get a bit murky because sometimes our emotions and feelings create so much, subjectiveness, right? Subjectivity. And in the process of feeling certain things, we can lose touch of what's kind of rational and logical as well. So it's a little bit tricky because she's squaring the new moon, but at best we can employ a sense of allowing ourselves to feel the wisdom of what our feeling body communicates back to us, right? That's basically how I would read that from lack of a better word, from a positive sort of level of integration in terms of what she brings to this picture. But she's important because she's the daughter of Zeus and they are squaring each other. Okay, so I was also thinking that this lunation cycle begins with just about every planet being retrograde. So there's a strong reflective stance within our point of where we are at the moment. There's a strong sense of kind of either waiting or reflecting or considering or rethinking things. There's a lot going on internally within all of us. And so very soon, I think Pluto's going to go direct soon, that it's going to be Saturn. And so things are going to start to be projected externally again. But this retrograde period with all these planets is, again, a very powerful position in all of us to to just work through some things that need a different approach, need a different action plan, different goal, different perspective, different take on things. You know, it's about reorienting ourselves to where we are at the moment in our life, with everything that we've been learning and how we have been growing and what we have been processing, right? Also, this new moon in Libra, you know, occurs about a month or so just before the Venus star point that ingresses into Libra. So I feel that this energy asks us to also just try to bring in a greater sense of love as well, right? In everything, really, in everything, but particularly in what we are doing, right? Because sometimes we have to make important decisions. We have to cut certain things off. We have to move on from certain things. We have to let go. We have to surrender. And those sorts of things are not easy to do, because as in our physical form, there's a sense of, God, if I let all that go, and if I just, surrender and become totally vulnerable, I feel, paralyzed. I feel disempowered. Like, how the fuck am I controlling anything if I just do that, right? So it's a very tricky kind of space to be in. But this is where, with Jupiter in Aries opposite this new moon, and also Mercury that's closing in again on an opposition to Neptune, Jupiter, both speak to wisdom, source. Neptune is the ultimate truth, so the ultimate source to reality, not as we see it with our physical eyes. So again, there's messages here of needing to trust, right? And trusting the component and the fabric of life which holds everything together, and that is love. Think about it. Hate doesn't hold people together. It creates division. It creates hostile environments. It creates war, anger, and so forth. It is love that actually unifies and brings things together collectively and individually. So if you've been through certain things, in your life of late, where you've had to let go of certain things, clear out certain things, end certain things, bring the sense of balance and love into the picture, and try and see it, if you can, try and see it as a gift. Venus rules gifts. This new moon is a Venus-ruled moon. So it's a new beginning. See it as a beautiful gift of a new beginning that's been offered to us. That will speak to much bigger things, because it's opposite Jupiter down the track. We can't quite see it at the moment, but we will. And it looks bright. It really looks bright. Think about the Sabian symbol. It's opposite Jupiter. Jupiter is the god of all blessings and abundance, essentially. And we have, as I said, the Venus star point ingressing into Libra next month, which is an absolute freaky phenomena that most of us have never, we haven't seen this lifetime necessarily. You might have been born in the 80s, where there was a changeover from Leo to Cancer, but you were a baby then, right? So you wouldn't understand it or experience it in the same way that, for those of us that are have been on the planet for a little while now, this Venus VSP ingressing into Libra is an extraordinary spiritual, evolutionary process to our becoming and what we are moving into. And this new moon in Libra has that flavor with it. She's that sun and that moon are carrying that energy, reminding us of the necessary balance that needs to be employed within our heart, within our soul, within our mind, on the earth plane. So there's lots of beautiful things about this particular lunation cycle. It feels optimistic to me. It feels it's come at the perfect time, and it feels like the new beginnings and new pathways that are going to emerge out of this are far more meaningful and bigger than what our left linear brain can perceive and understand at this point in time. It feels like there's a huge karmic clearing that's going on, right? Particularly with that Cazimi of Sun Mercury at 0 Libra, critical degree, the Equinox, the Sun in Libra, the balancing that's going on, the new moon in Libra, the VSP, Venus star point, ingressing into Libra. This we're talking about Venusian energies, and we need a lot more Venus, injected into everyone on this earth plane, because we've just seen so much of Mars. So much of Mars. Now, Mars is necessary, just like every archetype is necessary, but we've seen a lot of Mars, Scorpio, Aries energies for a very, very long time on the earth. And it's the scales are now coming up to balance up to clearing that Mars aggression, angry, violence, type of energies, right? Which really begins in our own psyche, in our own consciousness. So even though this is just a little lunation cycle, we have them every month, but we can think about bigger picture levels of this when we start to bring in other things, like the Venus star point in Libra. Jupiter is opposite this cycle. So, this lunation cycle, which starts on the 26th, it's the energy, the flavor for the next 4 weeks, essentially. So pay very close attention, obviously, to, where it lands in your birth chart, because that's going to be a huge clue as to where this energy gives birth to these sorts of matters in your life. And obviously pay attention to where Jupiter is going to be, which will be exactly opposite the new moon when you place it in your chart, right? The opposition from Jupiter is going to make that house really important relative to what this new moon brings up for you. Remember, it's new beginnings. It's there's a big karmic clearing that's happening, and this is speaking to that. So lap it up. Enjoy it, make the most of it, and I'll see you guys very, very soon with more. I just wanted to jump on and talk about this today because it's only 2 days away before the new moon occurs, and even though there's a lot of things that I've been working through myself that have been pretty challenging. It's probably been one of the most challenging winters outside of the winter that I went through when my father transitioned. That's how challenging this winter has been. The most uncomfortable changes that I've had to find a way to embrace. And it's not even just, it's everywhere. It's my environment, moving, there's so many things that happened in that story. I had to move twice, and it was horrendous, all the different things that have happened, and just so adjusting to a new environment, bodily changes, things going on there as well. So, and they're not little changes. They're not like, oh, I'm going to drink 3 glasses of water instead of 2. I'm talking about fundamental, profound, life-changing, altering events. And it's, why am I saying this? I'm saying it because I'm still showing up, I'm still showing up in this space to share, because I love sharing with you guys. I love and I'm passionate about astrology, always have been, always will be. It doesn't mean that's the only thing I'm passionate about, but that's certainly number one. It's up there. And no matter how many curveballs are thrown in my path, and of late I've had, well, since Pluto's been in my 12th house the last 15 years, I've had, curveball after curveball. And sometimes I've thought to myself, how the fuck am I even still here? Have I survived this shit? That's literally how intense it's been, right? But I'm here and I'm showing up to my best capability. And I think we can all do that, in our own way. And we all are, to our best capability. And while we are here, still breathing, your soul wants to be here. It's intending to be here. It's intending to continue to heal and grow, right? And every little portal that presents can be viewed as an opportunity, even when it's a crisis. Remember, crisis in Chinese language means opportunity. So a crisis is a very powerful portal for us to move on to the next level. And it's got nothing to do with anybody else's perceptions, judgments, thoughts about you, what they don't think about you, what they do believe about you. People believe shit, right? And say shit and think shit about people all the time. And it happens professionally, personally, it happens in the world of law, right? It happens everywhere. And it's most of the time, unfortunately, it's BS. And why is that important? It's important because we must stand in our own truth, our own values, our own truth, regardless of what is being projected, right, from others onto you. I think that's an important one, because in today's day and age, with the world of technology and just all the social media stuff, the Facebook, the Instagram, the YouTube, the this, the that, simple thing. You might, if you're a Facebook person, you'll post something, somebody might like it, somebody might not like it, somebody might love it, somebody might comment, somebody might blah, blah, whatever. And we're drawn into this fucking vortex where we feel like we have to reply, we have to accept, we have to acknowledge. It's just become this fucking world of draining our energy, it's just this fucking superficial Gemini bullshit world. Sorry, but it is, right? On those levels, right? And we get caught up in it, right? And we lose perspective, we lose sense of how I feel about this, or what matters to me, or what's important here for me. Why did I even say that? Whatever, right? These sorts of things I've been thinking about a lot, probably because Mercury is retrograde and it's opposite all my Aries planets. And I've been, just reflecting and thinking a lot about how other people see me, how other people make comments about me, what they see, what they say, and just how, in a lot of cases, people just project their own perspective of what they think you are, or who you're not. And we listen to that, we observe that, and sometimes we take it in as if it's fucking gospel, and it's far from gospel. So what's important? It's important that you are true to yourself, that you have that direct link with source. Check in with source. Don't worry about checking in with the random Gemini comments and blah, blah, blahs. Balance, 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 right? And being aware of other people's perceptions, values, and so on and so forth, without identifying, without taking it on as if it's your own, and understanding, discerning, what do I own in this situation and what belongs to the other. This theme is characterized very strongly with this new moon in Libra as well, because it's me, he, she, they, me, we. It's all about the opposite. And the opposite to us is our mirror every time. New moon in Libra is a mirror, but it is a new pathway of a new mirror that you can look at based on what you've worked through within your own self. So yeah, I'm out of here, and I'll see you guys very, very soon. Happy new moon, much love, much star blessings to all of you, and yeah, see you soon. Bye.